I want to start by welcoming you all to this presentation. We will be talking about time space and what is the time space calculation. We will try to learn how to calculate the percentage of your home used for business. And this is very, very important because when it comes to taxes, you will be able to deduct a portion of your home expenses. And that can really, really save you up some money. So it can be very, very significant, but it has to be done correctly. Just a very, very quick disclaimer before we jump into the presentation, and is that the information contained here has been prepared by Civitas Strategies and is not intended to constitute legal, tax, or financial advice. Also, that the publication and distribution of this information and the reproduction of this information and recording of this content, including the use of AI, are expressly prohibited. Only non-commercial uses of this work are allowed. Perfect. Let's start by giving you an overview of what we are going to be talking about today and what are we going to try to get out of this conversation. First, we will see why and when should providers use time space. This is the first couple questions we are going to answer. We will see why is it important to understand time space and when should we be using time space. We will also define two very important concepts: regular use and exclusive use. If you are familiar with time space, you probably have heard of these two concepts before. If you are new to time space, no worries, we will define them, we will explain them, we will learn why these two concepts are important to understand. And finally, we will try to go over how does the time-space calculation work. We will learn to calculate it. We will learn what variables we need to consider in order to get a correct calculation and why is it important to get a proper calculation of time space. So let's start talking about that. Why and when is time space important? As a home-based family provider, there are, give me a quick second just here. Perfect. Sorry about that. Perfect. As a home-based family childcare provider, many expenses are for business and personal home use. So time space helps figure out what percentage of expenses are considered business expenses. Meaning, in your home, if you have a business in your home, you are going to be able to deduct a portion of your home expenses as business expenses. Because the business is inside your home, then you might pay, if you might pay water, you might pay the electricity, you might pay repairs in your home or maintenance. So a portion of that can be allocated as a business expense. That's why it's very, very important to understand time space, because if it's a business expense, that means it can be a deduction. And if it's a deduction, it means that it's part of your tax savings. So time space calculations are used by providers to do their federal taxes. That's why it's very, very important to understand this concept. Now, Give me a second. I just want to make sure we are perfect. Awesome. Thank you. So now let's look at some common expenses that can be partially deducted using time-space calculations. And these are just the common expenses. Now, there are more, but the more common ones are first, rent payments. If you rent your home, if you live in your home and you're renting, you pay rent, portion of that rent can be deducted of your business income. Also, if you own your home and you're paying mortgage, you can deduct the interest. Again, not the mortgage payment, just the mortgage interest. So not the principal. You can also deduct property taxes. You can deduct a portion of your utilities like electricity, water, gas, internet. Also, if you pay for home insurance, a portion of that can be deducted. And any maintenance or repairs that you do that cover the entire home can be also deducted. For example, if your time space percentage is 30%, you could attribute 30% of your rent payment to your business. And this is very important because it can lead to significant tax savings, short term and over time as well. Remember, expenses solely dedicated to your business with no personal use can be reimbursed or deducted at 100% of the cost. So if you have a dedicated phone line for your childcare business, if you have outdoor play equipment used only by the childcare or by the children in your care, or if you have a specific toys or educational materials, these are exclusive use expenses, so they can be deducted at 100%. Time space is only applied to the expenses that are shared between personal use and business use. And that takes me to my next slide, which is defining the types of spaces that we will have in our home. Those are regular use space and exclusive use space. It is important to know how to distinguish these spaces and how they should be included in the time space if they are applicable. Let's break them down one by one and see what are their main differences and why is it important to have this differentiation. First, let's talk about regular use spaces. And when we say regular use, we actually mean shared use spaces. Actually, sometimes when I do these presentations or when I talk about time space, I refer to regular use spaces as shared use spaces only because it's a bit more straightforward. But we use the term regular because that's the term the IRS use. So that's the official term you will find in tax forms or in tax guidance. But no, when they say regular use, they mean shared use spaces, meaning they serve dual purposes for business and personal use. Examples, let's say you use your kitchen to cook for yourself, for your family, but also cook meals for the children. That's a regular use space. It's shared between business and personal use. Or if you use a living room that is your main living room for your home, for yourself, but also you use it for the children, then that's a regular use space. Then depending on how your space is, how your home is set up for the childcare, then you will have different regular use spaces. But the important thing is to remember, if you have a room, a space that you use both for business and personal, that's our regular use space. So the key characteristic of regular use spaces is their flexibility. They transform as needed throughout the day. For instance, your living room might be a play area during business hours and a family relaxation space in the evening. So take that into account. Those are regular use spaces. Now, exclusive use spaces, on the other hand, are areas in your home dedicated solely to your childcare business. These spaces are not used for any personal purposes at any time, and that's important. Again, these spaces are not used for any personal purposes at any time. Some examples of exclusive use spaces might include a room set up as a dedicated classroom, a storage area for childcare supplies, a separate entrance used only by uh, childcare families. But the critical factor here is that these spaces are 100% business use. So when calculating time space, exclusive use spaces are always counted at 100% for business use, regardless of the hours your business operates. That's why exclusive use spaces are important, because these will have or will be a big portion of your time space deduction. We will see why in a second, but for now, let's know that exclusive use spaces can add up pretty quickly when it comes to tax savings. So let's look at some scenarios just to finish defining regular and exclusive use spaces. And let's consider these scenarios just to illustrate the difference a little better. Let's see scenario number one, Sarah's living room. Let's say during the day, it's filled with toys and activities for children. In the evening, Sarah's family use it to relax, watch TV. That means it's a regular use space, because during the day, it's used for the business. During the evening, it's used for the family. That's personal use. Now, let's look at scenario number two, Tom's spare bedroom. It's set up as a preschool classroom and is never used for anything else. This is an exclusive use space. What about Maria's kitchen in scenario number three? It's used for preparing meals for the children during the day and for family meals in the evening. Again, regular use space. I think you can see the pattern. Let's talk, and last scenario, Lisa's basement playroom. It's fully equipped for a childcare program and off limits to family use. This is an exclusive use space. Understanding these distinctions will help you accurately categorize your spaces and also accurately calculate your time space percentage. Something important when we talk about exclusive use spaces is that it has to be clear that that space is not used for anything else other than childcare activities. Now, let's talk about calculating time space. So now we understand the types of spaces. Let's now walk through the process of calculating your time space. We will break it down into manageable steps. And remember that your time space or your time percentage represents the portion of your expenses incurred for your home that you can attribute to your business. Meaning what portion of your home expenses can you write off as a business expense? We're going to go through a simple series of steps that you can use, and you can find or simple series of steps that you can use to find your time space percentage. Let's see the steps first. These steps, I'll just read them once, then we will do an example, and these steps will make a lot more sense. First, we want to determine the square footage of your regular use space. Remember, regular use space means your shared use areas. So areas that you share for both personal and business. So if you have, let's say, a kitchen and a living room, let's say both of those spaces are regular use spaces, then you have to measure both. Then you add them up to get the total square footage of your regular use space. Then we want to divide that by your home's total square footage. So that's our regular use percentage. Step number 3, we want to determine the amount of time your home was used for childcare. And something important here, this doesn't mean only the hours that the business is open. Here, of course, you have to include those hours, but you can also include hours that you spend before opening for prepping, for cooking, for anything that you do related to the business. Also, you can include hours after closing for cleaning up or anything that you do after closing. Those hours that you are working can be included in your time. Then we want to divide the total hours by the total hours that you work inside your home for the business by the hours in a year, the total hours in a year. That number is 8,760. You don't have to remember that number. That's the number given by the IRS. Then we want to multiply the time and space percentage to get our initial time space percentage, but then we have to add the exclusive use percentage. So we divide the exclusive use space by the total square footage of your home. We add it to the previous result that we have, and that will be our time space calculation. Just reading these steps might be a little confusing if you have never done time space before, but let's do some examples and let's break down the steps even further. First, let's see how to calculate the square feet. For properly getting our measurements and making sure our time space calculation is accurate, we will need to measure the length and the width of your space. You can use a tape measure, fix a tape measure to one end of the longest wall in your space and extend it to the other end. Then record this measurement. Important, record it in feet, not inches, because the IRS uses square feet for time space. If you use inches, then the calculations will not be accurate. So next, fix that tape measure to one end of the shortest wall in your space and extend it to the other end. You want to record this measurement and multiply them. So we want to basically get the square footage of a room. We measure length, we measure width, we multiply both. That's your square footage. For oddly shaped rooms, you have to use the square footage calculation for each block and then add them together. So if the room is not a rectangle, it's not a square, we will want to do multiple measurements to get an accurate calculation. But as long as you get the square footage, then that's everything we need. You have to get the square footage for each room. So measure the entire home. If you can, let's say if you're measuring a room, just take notes if that room is regular use space, it's exclusive use space, or if it's not used for business at all. You still have to measure the room, even if it's not used for business, because we will use that measurement for knowing the total square footage of the home. So you need to measure all rooms and take notes. If it's used for business, if yes, then is it regular, is it exclusive, or if it's not used for business. So now that we define that, let's go step by step. First, we need to measure the areas of your home regularly used for childcare. Again, you want to determine the square footage of the area in their home that you can say, okay, these rooms are for regular use space. I use them both for business and for personal. I take the square footage of all of them and add them all up at the end. So let's say in this example, we have the living room is 200 square feet. The kitchen is 150 square feet. We have a half basement that is 300 square feet. The total is 650 square feet. So this is our regular use space, 650 square feet. And again, this will be different for everyone, depending on how your layout is, depending on your home, depending on many, many factors. So this is just an example. Step two, we want to calculate the percentage of home use. So let's say our home is 2,000 square feet, or total home, total square footage of our homes, 2,000. So we divide that 650 by 2,000, and we get 0.325. If you want to get a percentage, we have to multiply by 100. So that's about 32.5%. So again, what we did here, or 650 square feet, is our regular use space. For this example, again, this is not a general rule. You have to do your own measurements and get your own results. But this is just our example. So again, this 600 square feet divided by the total square footage of our home, in this case, 2,000, that's about 32.5%. Step three, we want to calculate the time. So what do we need to include? First, open hours, then prep time, cleanup time, and also business activities during closed periods. So let's say we add all of those things up. So we open 10 hours, we clean up for 1 hour, we do prep for 1 hour. Let's say that those are 12 hours. So 12 hours per day times 5 days a week. This depends on how many days you're open a week. Let's say 5 for this case. And let's say we were open 48 weeks during the year. So if you took vacation for a couple weeks, you have to count those 2 weeks out of your calculation. So only count the weeks that you were open. Let's say in this case, 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, 48 weeks. So Also, let's say we work 20 hours during closures, we can add that as well. At the end, we get that we work 2,900 hours in the year. So that's basically that's what we want to get. How many hours do you work during the year? In this case, 2,900. Now we want to get the business time percentage. So for that, we divide our total hours that we worked by the total hours in a year. This case is about 33%. Now, and let me go back a few steps. So in step 2, we got our regular use space. Step 4, we got our time percentage. So we want to save those results. For now, the step 2 result was about 32.5. Step 4 is 33.1. Why do we want to add them or save them? It's because we will multiply them in step 5. So 32.5% times 33.1%, that's about 10.76%. Now we're going to step 6, and that's factoring in exclusive use space. For that, we can break this down into 2 steps. Step 6, like step 6 part 1 and step 6 part 2. For step 6 part 1, you can use exclusive use square footage divided by the total square footage. So let's say your exclusive use square footage is 100 square feet. This here in the example, let's say it's 100 square feet by 2,000 square feet. If you remember, 2,000 was our total square footage in our home. So 100 divided by 2,000 is about 5%. Now we add this 5% to our previous result. So 10.76 plus 5%, that's about 15.76%. So this is our time space. In this example, again, this will be different for everyone. Your result can be similar to this one. It can be more, it can be less. So it really depends. You do have to measure your spaces because these calculations are unique depending on your home, depending on your space. This is just a summary of the steps. Not going to stop too much here, but again, we get our regular use square footage, we get our time square footage, multiply them, then add exclusive use space to that. So this is just a breakdown of the steps we just did. Perfect. Now let's talk about some practical examples and common scenarios that you might find. And this is something that you probably have in your home, you might encounter at some time. So let's talk about them. First, the partial room dilemma. Let's say that Jenny uses half of her living room for childcare. She measures the entire room, let's say 300 square feet, but only counts 150 square feet in the calculations. This is correct. Only count the space actually used for childcare. So if you have a partial room, half of that is used for childcare, the other half is not, then you only have to count what is actually used for childcare. Then for the seasonal changes, let's say we run a summer only program, we calculate the percentage based on 12 weeks of operation plus preparation time. So this results in a lower time percentage but is an accurate reflection of business use. Again, when we count time, we have to count the weeks that we actually worked. So if your business is open seasonally, then we cannot count for the entire year, only for the weeks that weeks of operation and if there was any other preparation time. The nap time question. Let's say, or we wonder if we should count bedrooms used only for nap time. And the answer is yes. Even if a space is used for only part of the day, it's still counted in your regular use calculations. Now let's talk about the home office conundrum. Let's say we have a small office where we do paperwork for the childcare business, but it's never used by the children. This is an exclusive use space and should be counted at 100% in your calculations. And this is very, very important because you can use, if you use any room for business, even if it's not used by the children, if it's for administrative tasks, if it's for storage, if those tasks or those storage is related to the business, this should be included in your calculation. Now, the outdoor space consideration. Let's say we have a large backyard used for childcare. While the yard itself is not counted in square footage calculations, if you have an attached deck, you can include that and it's part of your home structure. So again, yard is not included, attached deck is included. But again, I'm saying this a lot, but remember that every childcare home is unique. So these examples are meant to guide you, but your specific situation might require some thoughtful consideration, might require or must have your own specific measurements. So that's important to remember. Let's talk now about some quick tips for accurate record keeping. And accurate record keeping is crucial for supporting your time-space calculation because you will want to have proof of your time-space calculation of the proper use of your spaces, and especially the spaces that you are declaring as being business use, either regular or exclusive. So some things that you can do is first create a floor plan of your home, clearly marking regular and exclusive use areas. Also, keep a detailed log of your operation hours. Important, operation hours are not only the hours that the business is open, also include hours that you spend on preparation and cleanup time. Then save all receipts related to home expenses. Even if they are not solely for business use, you will want to save those. Because if we will be including or water bill or electricity bill or property taxes, as with any other business expense, we will want to have proper documentation, proof of expenses. So in case, first for bookkeeping, for our own records. Second, just in case the IRS were to ask questions, we have proof of everything we're doing for the business. Also, you can take photos of your childcare spaces periodically to document their use. These don't have to be professional pictures. It can be just pictures that you take of your home or from your phone, and that show that the spaces are being used for childcare or for what you are reporting them. Also, you can use a digital calendar to track days of operation, including any closures or special events. Another thing you can consider is using a time-space calculation app or spreadsheet to make annual calculations easier. Then you can review and update your calculations at least once a year or whenever there are significant changes to your space use. Or if you change your operating hours, that can also affect your, or will definitely affect your time space. So review and update your calculations, let's say at the beginning of the year, see if they are still current or if you have to change them, or if you are going to do changes, if you're going to move things around, if you're going to change your layout, if you're going to add space, if you're going to change your operating hours, make sure to update your time space as well. And finally, you can consult with a tax professional familiar with home-based childcare businesses to ensure you're maximizing your deductions correctly. By maintaining true records, you will be prepared for tax time and any potential audits. So we are covered. We want to minimize our liability when it comes to time, space, taxes, and all that. So following these tips can definitely help a lot on that. Now, once you have calculated your time space percentage, you can apply it to your share home business expenses. Here's how. For each share expense, let's say utilities, meaning water, electricity, um, garbage collection, and all that, or it can be your rent or your mortgage interest. We want to, or we will have to multiply the total amount by your time space. Let's say we spend $100 on utilities every month and our time space is 30%, then that means we can deduct $30 of our utilities. So the resulting amount is what you can consider a business expense for tax purposes. In this case, the $30 are your business expense. This is going to be your business expense. Keep in mind that that expenses solely for your business are still 100% deductible. So you can still deduct 100% of that. When filing taxes, you will use Form 8829. That's the form where we include time space. This is where we report expenses for business use of your home. And your time space will be a key part of this form because actually, I think part one of Form 8829 is going to be your time space. Again, you will want to, if you're declaring time space, you will want to see this form in your tax return. For grant applications or reimbursements, check with the specific program guidelines on how to apply your time space percentage. It can change. And remember, while the time space calculations can significantly impact your financial picture, it's always wise to consult with a tax professional to ensure you're applying these concepts correctly to your unique situation. Now, very quickly, just want to go over some key takeaways and some conclusions and next steps. Remember, the importance of calculations, they can be very significant. They can add up very quickly. And know the difference between regular and exclusive use spaces. Also, you have the step-by-step process. Remember that there are many practical applications about this. Record keeping is important, keeping proper documentation and applying to expenses and taxes. Next steps, what you can do after today's webinar is measure your spaces, track your hours, calculate your percentage, and apply that percentage to your expenses. You can also seek for professional advice if needed. Now, I want to share with you the time-space calculation worksheet. Um, Let me add it to the chat.
I can add it for you, Carlos. Let me
Perfect.
add it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Melinda. So Melinda will add the time-space calculation worksheet to the chat. What that worksheet is, it's basically a Excel template or is a spreadsheet that you can use to plug in your own numbers. So if you have your own measurement, you can plug them in there. You still have to measure your space. You still have to measure um, your layout and everything, but um, you don't have to do the calculations by yourself, or if you already did the calculations, you can use this to make sure those calculations are accurate. So it will, the worksheet will ask you what's your total square footage, what's your exclusive use square footage, regular use square footage, time, and all that. So feel free to use this worksheet. It's very, very nice just to double check that your calculations are accurate, or if you are new calculating time space, this is a very, very nice tool. We just sent the link in the chat, so please feel free to use it. Now I want to see if we have any questions about the presentation, anything that we have talked about. Oh yes, and the worksheet, it's in English and Spanish, so you can use it in either language. Perfect. I want to see if there are any questions. You can write your questions in the chat. Let me scroll the chat a little bit to see if there were any questions during the presentation. Perfect. I see no questions. So I'll wait a few seconds just to see if we have any questions. If not, we will jump directly to the conclusions. Perfect. Awesome. No questions, I believe. So just a quick wrap up and reflection.
One question, Carlos. There is a question in the chat that just popped.
Oh, sorry about that. Oh, okay. There's a question. How do we, what areas go to what areas? Assuming you're referring to exclusive use and shared use, that really depends on how you use those spaces. So again, if you use let's say you use a room only for the childcare, only when children are present for the children, or only for things related to the business, and you don't use that room for anything outside the business, like you don't spend any personal time in that room, then that is a exclusive use space. And I see we have yard and driveway. Will it go with player? So it depends. For the yard, we can only count if there's like a deck attached. All the green space cannot be counted. So that is not included in your time space calculation. So only if you have a deck attached, it can be counted. Perfect. And if you have any other questions, feel free to keep sending me in the chat. Oh, I see another question. So you said that the attached patio can be part of calculations if used as part as outdoor play, but it depends to case. But are there restrictions when it is attached but not included, even though it is used for outdoor play? So it can only be counted if it's attached. If it's not attached, it cannot be counted. So the restrictions when it's attached but not included, if it's attached, you can be including. So it's part of it. It's counted as your total square footage of the home. So it has to be reflected in your time space calculation as well. If you use that attached portion for outdoor play, then that's part of your business use space, and you should be counting that. So just to make that point very, very clear, for yard, you can only include what is attached to the home. Everything that is not attached, even if you use it for outdoor play, cannot be included. Let's see if we have any other questions about that or want further clarification. Perfect. Perfect. Feel free to keep sending your questions. I'll just go over this wrap up and reflection real quick. And and then if I see more questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. Just as we wrap up our discussion, let's talk about some of the critical points that will help you implement this tool in your childcare business. First, financial clarity. The time-space calculations provide a clear picture of how your home and business expenses intertwine. This clarity is crucial for making informed financial decisions, maximizing tax deductions, and ensuring the long-term success of your childcare business. And I'll get to the chat questions in a second. I'll just finish this wrap up. Also, space matters. Again, remember regular and exclusive use space. We have learned the difference. We have learned why they are important. So make sure you have that distinction clear and calculate them accordingly. Then time tracking, the often overlooked factor. While it's easy to focus on the space aspect, the time component of this calculation is equally crucial. So tracking time accurately is a must if you want to have and maximize your time space percentage. And finally, consistent application. You can make it a habit. The real power of time space calculation comes from consistent application. It's not a one-time task, but an ongoing process. So it should become part of your regular business practices. You can set reminders to update your calculations annually. Again, if you do significant changes in your space, your time space is probably going to change. Always look for ways to maximize your time space if you can. And we have a question. If you can step out on the patio from your kitchen door, means is it attached? And that's a tricky question to answer here because it really depends on your space, on your layout. But as a general rule, if it's a deck attached, if there's if it's not a green space, then that can be considered a deck or portion that is attached to your home. Then we can count that. We can count that. If it's a green space, then generally is not counted. But again, we will have to look specifically at how your space looks like. But that's just a general rule. If it's a deck attached, then it's considered attached. If it's green space, might not be considered. Yes, absolutely. Perfect. So that was all we had for you today. I really want to thank you for attending. Just a reminder that through DECAL, you can access to many, many, many more free business resources, from self-study guides to small study groups. If you're interested in learning about new topics, feel free to go to the DECAL website and sign up either for small study groups or go over the self-study guides. This year, we're very excited to have two new small study groups. So if you took the small study groups last year, this year you have two new ones that you can take. First one's for maximizing tax credit. This one is very interesting because this is designed for going over federal tax credits and tax credits in the state of Georgia. So it's very nice, and you can get a lot of value out of it. And also we have the revenue stacking in Georgia. So this is to build a more sustainable business. Also, they are available in Spanish. If you're Spanish speaker and want to join these groups, you can find them as well. And you can scan the QR code below to access the DECAL website. There you can find all the resources I'm talking about. I'll leave the Spanish slide as well. If someone wants to scan this QR code, again, go to the DECAL website. To go to the DECAL website, and you will find everything that is available for you. Also, please join us for our next webinar. It's going to be on April 7th, and it's about the power of technology in childcare businesses. Very interesting webinar going about automations, about how to save time, money, add value to your business through technology. So please join us. You can register using the QR code on screen. Again, April 7 at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, it will be available in English and Spanish, just the same as today. So if you want to listen to it in Spanish, you can register here as well. Also, you can register to the free one-on-one tax education. I know tax season is almost ending, so you can, and thank you for signing up. I see your comment. So you can also sign up for free one-on-one tax education, available in Spanish as well. So if you're interested in Spanish or English, you can sign up. And finally, let us know how we did. If you want to give us your feedback, tell us what you liked, what you didn't like. Scan this QR code, take this very short survey. It really helps us to bring the best content for you. So we really take in your feedback into consideration. It takes less than 1 minute to fill, so feel free to fill out this survey. Also available in Spanish. So if you want to fill it out in Spanish, you can also fill it out. And finally, if you have more questions about this topic, visit the Tom Kaplan blog. You will find answers to questions that were previously posted there. So you might find an answer to a question that you might have. If you don't find it, you can ask the experts there and you will get an answer to your question. So that was all we had for you today. Really appreciate your time. Really appreciate you being here. We hope to see you again on April 7 or on one of those small study groups.